Welcome to Feelings and Other F Words. I'm Dr. Daryl Appleton, and on this Valentine's Day, I want to shout out the people I love dearest and most, and that is my internet friends. It's also Jimmy Appleton and my family, obviously, yes, but the people who are in my tribe, both in real life and online. So even you guys listening, this is for you. And today, the F word is about fitting in versus belonging. Now, I took it a few layers deeper, where specifically I'm going to focus on the village, the tribe around motherhood. And my guest after the break, Tara Clark, knows all about this. And we're going to dive into her amazing interview talking about modern mom problems. But the thing that we talked about the most was this idea that we don't fucking know anything about motherhood that we can actually relates to how we experience it, right? We can read all the books, we can do all the things, but at the end of the day, you don't know it until you try it, right? It's just one of those things. Now, what caught me off guard, what sent me down this like absolute research spiral hole that you guys know I get into was a word that I had never heard of before until like 2 weeks ago. And it caught me off guard because I've never heard of this word ever in my life, yet everything it stood for, everything it defined, I've felt so profoundly. And that word is matrescence. And in definition, it's this idea or this transition into motherhood. And it talks about the physical, the psychological, the social changes. And when you look at the research attached to it, it's almost comparable to adolescence. Like you're almost going through this growth spurt and you're leaving behind an old version of you to get to this new version. And that's painful. Like there are literal physical growing pains associated with becoming a mom. And it doesn't mean that it's not wonderful and beautiful and yeah. I know some of you are going to be in my comments talking about how I should be grateful. Yes, I am. This is not about that. So a lot of women, I think, are incredibly aware of this concept and this change and this shedding of who we are. Like there are stages of grief attached to that. But what happens is there's a lot of feelings of isolation and self-doubt that I have found that come with motherhood and the moms that I've talked to and stuff that I see online. And yes, even in the research also supports that women, mothers especially, feel more lonely than ever before. I think it's almost something like 80 to 90% of women who are mothers feel at some point when their kids are young this loneliness. And I think that's something we need to talk about more. How do we educate mothers about matrescence? How do we help them understand their experiences as something that's natural rather than a shortcoming? So I did some digging, right? The Guardian, I was deep into The Guardian reading, and The Guardian was talking about why are women lonely? Why are moms lonely? And they were talking about the modern societal structures that leave new moms or not so young moms spending hours a day alone with their infants because their partners are back at work, because their family lives far. But a lot of times just being the sole caretaker of you and this tiny human, or in my world, humans that are now just your roommates. They've come out and they now occupy 100% of your home, 100% of your thoughts. It can lead to feelings of isolation. It can lead to feelings of depression and anxiety. And women who are under 30 having babies, and this is according to research that The Guardian was looking at, their studies, they feel the loneliness, they feel the isolation, they feel the anxiety a bit more. And I think factors like parental leave, which we could go down a rabbit hole about, lack of community support, this idea that right now in 2025, it's so individualized versus the years before of communities of our grandparents or our great-grandparents. And I think that this exacerbates this isolation. And this goes into this village concept. And I have a love-hate relationship with this word. Like, find your village, find your people. Like, it's hard, right? Because I think that being in a mom tribe, a mom group, there are some horror stories, right? Mean girl behavior doesn't just stop because you popped out a kid. it runs rampant. So sometimes finding your village is really hard. And I get into this with Tara Clark, and we talk a lot about this, and she has some really great tips. But the psychology behind it, the evolutionary psychology behind it is very much the village concept is very much deeply rooted in our evolutionary history. It's this idea of this collective child rearing. And throughout history, throughout time, this was the norm. There were multiple caregivers. They were actually called alloparents. This idea that you could pass your child off and do what you needed to do in another facet of your life was very normal. I remember seeing pictures, in Brooklyn and New York, back in like 1900s, 1910, 20, of just like women helping to feed babies that weren't theirs, right? And I think now the idea is horrifying of like, oh my God, another woman breastfeeding my child. But I remember talking to my grandmother and her not being that weirded out by that concept because back in her day, like you helped however you could, right? So again, I'm not saying that's the way to go, but I'm saying it's encoded in our DNA to need, to want, to crave a tribe, and not having that can absolutely not exacerbate, that sounds different, but can absolutely lead to these feelings on a deep emotional level. So providing support to moms, contributing to a child's development, these are all things that we see and studies have shown are integral to us as moms and to the kids that we are trying to raise to be these beautiful, wonderful people. But unfortunately, the isolated nuclear family is a model that is incredibly prevalent now. We are not as attached intergenerationally. We're not living in multi-generation family homes or family compounds. Although I love this idea of a granny pod. There's something about it. Like I'd love to move my mom, not into my home necessarily. I love you, Barb. I really do. I want you around, but just maybe like a few 100 feet away and in your own space, because I know you would enjoy that too. But there's something like kind of like that like strikes me. And not saying all of you have great relationships with your mothers or family that want that, but I think there's this, again, like inherent pull to want that even if you don't have it. Let's move to fitting in versus belonging. There is a distinction. And Brene Brown talks about this a lot. There's actually a 2021, I think. I don't have it written down, but don't quote me on it. 2021 or 22 research study called Belonging. And it's a review of this conceptual issue around fitting in versus belonging. It was published in the Australian Journal of Psychology. And it's this idea that fitting in means changing yourself to be accepted by a group, which sometimes we need to do a little bit. Maybe you need to curb your politics. Maybe you need to like start working out because your mom group works out a lot and you don't want to, but you're going to do that, which isn't a bad thing, which I guess I'm projecting because I need to do that more. Anyway, sidebar. Belonging is being accepted, being seen for who you are. And we've talked about it a lot on this show. At our core as human beings, the things that we want most deeply, psychologically, literally, is to feel seen, heard, and understood. So I can absolutely see how this ties into not only a village, not only the isolation when we don't have it, but also this core sense of self, of wanting to belong to a group. And again, we'll get into this very much with Tara, but I think there's something about everything I've read in the research that shows that genuine belonging is absolutely associated with better social relationships, academic achievement skyrockets, occupational success goes way, way up. And ultimately, we have better physical and mental health, which, duh, Daryl, makes sense. Makes sense. So again, we're going to get into this. Tara has some really great ideas and how-tos and action steps on what you can do to find your tribe, how to start to get into a place of a belonging focused. And that's self-assessment, that's self-awareness. Go back and listen to those episodes on that because you're going to need it if you're going to get to that true place of belonging and acceptance for who you are. You got to find out who you are first. So stay tuned. We're going to be talking to Tara from Modern Mom Probs when we get back. and continuing this conversation. Welcome back to Feelings and Other F Words. I have with me the wonderful, smart, funny, incredibly capable, who just helped me get on Riverside and make this happen because I was having tons of technical trouble, not her, Tara Clark. And she is the creator of a very popular Instagram account. You probably follow her. If you don't, you need to. Modern Mom Probs, where you are blending humor and real conversations and really just addressing the challenges that moms today feel. She has a background in digital marketing. She was at Nickelodeon. She has hundreds of thousands of followers. And really, it's just this place where moms can come together and have love and support. And this idea of tribe, which I totally want us to get into. But before that, you need to know that she is an author. She has a book, Modern Mom Probs, a survival guide for the 21st century mother, which I love. And I think that that's something we also need to get into. And really, you have also this style box, this Modern Mom style box, which I love because my decision-making fatigue is real and I need someone just to send me options and ideas. But really and truly, Tara is fostering a sense of community and reminding moms especially that we are not alone, which I think is why we wanted to do this episode, because I think there's something about this F word of fitting in versus finding your people. So we know moms are lonely. We know that there's this whole statistic that I think in The Guardian that just came out that about 80 to 90% of new moms are feeling lonely. And it's accompanying this onslaught of physical problems and mental problems and social problems. So why do you think moms are as lonely as they are? You've been doing this, you're writing about this. Where do you think this is coming from?
Oh, first of all, I want to say that was the best introduction. So I just want to say thank you for that. I was like, oh my God, she's so good. So first off, thank you. Secondly, I often talk about sort of my top 5 modern mom problems, and loneliness is one of them in the top 5. Why I started my account and everything that I do actually sprung from loneliness. I was living in New York City and we had my son, and I felt very isolated. And yes, I'm living in a city of 8 million people, but I'm alone in my apartment. My husband was at work and I was alone with this baby. And I didn't have any friends because most of my friends were still working at Nickelodeon at the time and they didn't have kids. And I was like, how am I going to meet people? And yes, I would go to Central Park every day and try to make friends. And I'm friendly, right? That's my F word. I'm fun and I'm friendly. and I'm like, hey, you want to be friends? And people are like, no. Or it was all just nannies, which obviously I'd be friends with the nannies too, but it's not quite the same dynamic as finding mom friends. So I started my Instagram account. But going back to answer your question, why are moms lonely? It's isolating. It's isolating to be home with your babies. In the early months, in the early years, I watched a ton of Netflix. When my son was born, I binge watched Orange is the New Black. So still to this day, when I watch that show or when I think of that show, I always think about his newborn time. And also Downton Abbey. Those are my 2 binge watches, just to date myself and let you know.
Different.
Totally
Covering
different.
the spectrum. I like it.
But that's so my personality, from one thing to the other. That really encapsulates me.
Love it.
But it's isolating and it's hard because you're still coming into your new identity as a mom, and you're also healing from giving birth if you give birth, and it's a lot. And so then we're sort of in our individual silos. So how do you fix that, right? You fix that by going outside for a walk, going to the park, trying to meet people in person, trying to do meetups, connecting with people online, and that's what really helped me. And all of my friends now are my internet friends. It's not that I don't have any friends in person, although my son now will tell me, he's like, Mom, you have no friends. I was like, I do have friends. They just live in my computer.
Yep. There you go. The new world is wild. And I think social media has helped us connect for sure. Do you think there's any aspects where social media has hurt the mom tribe idea or this village idea?
Oh, dude. I mean, how much time do you have? Like, are we going to be here all day?
Tell me, ma'am.
Right. Well, yes. There's one of my favorite content creators. Her name is Cece Kane. I think like the actual like account is like Kane Cece. I think she has it like reversed. Her videos are about Facebook groups and like the ridiculous like comments where someone's like coming to the group saying like, hey, I have a question about XYZ. Should my toddler be doing XYZ? And then the people are just coming in with like the most ridiculous answers, right? So she does a sketch about this. And her thing too is like she always puts like a ridiculous like things on her head as a hat to be different characters, to be playing different people. It is hilarious. And why it's so funny is like, yeah, she really hits the nail on the head. Someone's innocently asking the Facebook group, hey, I have a question about this scope of motherhood. And these people are coming out with the most like asinine answers or shaming. And it's a lot of shaming. And so unfortunately, there's a lot of shaming, mom shaming online. And that sometimes can hinder relationships. It can make you question your own decisions when you may be having a relatively innocent question. Part of the reason why I started my account in the first place back in the day was two reasons. Like I said, the true reason was trying to connect with people. So it was the loneliness, going back to your point. The second one was I lived in the Upper East Side of New York City, and there was the Upper East Side Moms Group, which was so ridiculous that it actually at one point made national news because of something that happened.
I remember that.
And and I started my account to lampoon sort of the things that were going on in there because it was just the most ridiculous thing. And again, not to mom shame, but like I'm talking about this now in a comical way, but like some of the things were just like, what planet are you living on? And so it's hard because not everyone, and I say this all the time, everyone parents differently. Not everyone's living the same life. Not everyone has the same journey, whether it's a motherhood journey or a financial journey or lifestyle journey. Everyone's doing their own thing. And so it's hard to not shame people, but it's very easy to scroll on and not and leave a negative comment. Very easy. Oh, that doesn't apply to you? Great. Keep it moving.
Right, right. So it's interesting. So we have this, the moms where we have birth. Our hormones are crazy. We are literally, I was saying this to somebody the other day and they were like, that sounds terrible. And I don't mean it to, but it's literally a parasitic relationship when you are pregnant. Like you were literally
it is. Literally is. Yeah, no, actually is. Yes.
Actually, they're like stealing your omega-7, making you dumber. Like there's all this science that's coming out about how it physically changes us mentally, emotionally, our brains. So we're going through that. We are lonely at baseline. And then we have access to people that maybe we normally wouldn't. And with that, like dating almost, you have access to people you normally wouldn't. And now it's kind of this, and the question really for me, and it's very, the gospel according to Brene Brown, of just like the difference between fitting in and belonging. So like, how do moms navigate that? Because we do have access to these things. Like, how do we find our people, like authentically, what is that for somebody? How can they do that? How can they go through that and find their people?
I love that you said the gospel according to Brene Brown. It's so good. It's so good. No, there's a very big difference between fitting in and belonging and finding your true friends, because fitting in is when you're not being, and I hate this word, but I'll say it anyway, your authentic self. Okay? I just hate it only because I feel like it's so overused. You're not being your very woo-woo. You're not being your true self, but it's true in those situations. You're putting on a mask. Let's say you're masking, right, for that particular group. When you truly belong, here you are showing up, warts and all. And going back to when I was saying about like some of my best friends are from Instagram, they're content creators. We're having those conversations in our group chats and DMs on Insta. And it's just us just being so honest. And back in the day when I first started my account, I found a group of friends. They were all over the country, in fact, all over the world. And we were each other's lifelines. We talked about everything, to the point where it actually got so distracting. We were just like constantly on group chats. So this was the early days of Instagram. This was 2016, just to give you an idea. 2016, we were just like nonstop DMing each other. And we were each other's lifeline, and we truly belonged because we were showing up really, truly. And that's not necessarily the case for all groups. You're not going to fit into every group, or maybe not fit in. Belong. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
totally.
not every group is for you. Not every group is for
And
me,
thank
and that's
God.
okay, right?
Thank God, because imagine the
Exactly.
social calendar you would keep, it would be too much.
It would just be too much. And it's just not possible. Like when you were in school, put yourself back into elementary school or high school. You did not go with every group. You found your people and you acted like yourself, and then that was it. And they acted like themselves, and that was it. I went to my high school was very, oh gosh, it was very like cheerleader and football player versus everyone else. It was a characteristic. It was like a caricature. It was very like
Yeah.
stereotypical like that. It was like a movie. You're like, what
Yeah.
alternate universe high school is this? I'm not going to name names. It's in New Jersey. It was a Catholic school. It's a co-ed Catholic school.
You're speaking to my heart.
And it was just, it was like I said, it was the cheerleaders and the football players versus everyone else. But even within those football players and cheerleaders, there was a lot of masking going on. There was a lot of trying to fit in just because they knew that there was the social status with that too. But for me, who was totally not involved in that at all, just doing my own thing with my friends, there's so much freedom to that. And even now, there's so much freedom to being yourself. And that's my favorite thing. And that's what I love so much about podcasts. And I say this all the time. I love being on podcasts because I love having an authentic conversation with you, directly with you and your listeners, and they could hear me being totally me all the time. When I go on social media, I clam up and I get super nervous, and I feel like that's not the authentic me. Like, so what you see there is like not always Tara being Tara because there's a camera in front of my face, which is inherently like not authentic, right? But having a conversation with you totally is. So a lot of that has to do with going back to the question about like fitting in and like truly belonging is, I guess, confidence is a certain point, but not forcing things. Like I have gotten to an age where I'm like, I'm not going to force it on something, whether it is doing a video on social media or whether it's to try to fit into a particular group. Like I'm just going to be me, and that's it.
And I think that's cool because there's a level of self-awareness there of I am this or I'm growing in this area and I'm not that. And the vulnerability to say that to somebody of we can exist. Like I find that pickup, I'm going to go on a tangent. School pickup to me is the most interesting things because I'm mingling with the moms that I normally don't. And it's interesting how people gravitate towards each other naturally. And then it's almost like you need to make an extra effort to get to know people beyond the stereotypes that we see or beyond the cliques that we see forming. And that's a vulnerable experience. And then to be self-aware enough of being like, oh, I'm not part of that group, not because like I'm not part of it, but because I don't want to be part of it. Or like, what am I going to get quality-wise out of this rather than like quantity of invites or quantity of, whatever it is. So I do
Yeah,
think as moms, as women, even my college age people out there right now listening, there's something to will be a lifelong thing as a
it
woman.
is.
I find that men can pick up where they left off or just join a group and talk about the most tertiary thing possible and be like, oh my God, this guy's amazing. But women, we connect on a deeper level and it changes through time. So how have you seen your friendships change and that dynamic of the shifts that take place of I can't keep in touch with my mom friends that I normally did either pre-kids or now our kids are not at the same school or even that like your groups, your tribe will shift. How thoughts on that?
Yes, my tribe has definitely shifted in the last few years for a couple of reasons. Now my son is 12. He's in a new school. He's in a private school compared to the public school that he had been in for elementary school. I no longer see any of those other moms. I, in fact, was the president of the PTA for 2 years in a row. So I was super connected and I knew most people in town. And now I don't keep in touch with virtually anyone. My friend Kelly, she and I were ride or die. We still see each other, but I don't see those other people, and that's okay. And so now even in his new school, all of those moms, most of those moms were a set dynamic. And I am not in that click, like you said before. So I'm just kind of like floating by myself now, and it's okay. I'm okay being by myself. I'm okay going to an event and not necessarily having anyone to talk to. And I'm saying that they're not like not talking to me to be mean, but like they're doing their own thing. And I kind of just like, hi, you wave and you kind of sit down. But things definitely, they change over time, especially when your kids get older. I was so desperate to make new mom friends when my son was little. Again, going back to the loneliness, I was like, please, I need someone to talk to. That's an adult. That's not in a diaper. And or actually, in the very beginning, we were in diapers. But, fast forward a few months after that, I needed somebody to talk to that was not in a diaper. And it was such an important priority to me to meet mom friends. And so then I did all while he was in nursery school and elementary school. And it shifts the older that your children get, because you don't see the moms at pickup as often. In fact, at middle school, people don't really even go in to like properly, like they don't even walk up to the door to retrieve their children. Some people do. There's like 2 parents in the entire middle school that still walk up. Most people just kind of hang back in their cars and the kids walk to them. So that dynamic changes. And then I'm sure in high school, it's like even more like that. So as a mother, your friendships evolved just as your children evolve and grow.
Which is a wild thing, right? Because I don't think they cover this in the parenting books, like the what to expect while you're expecting. Like, I feel like the motherhood, the support piece, the shifting, the navigating, even in those books, it's like all about the kid.
Yeah.
And I remember when the twins were born, my pediatrician, who I love him, he's a man from Long Island, and we happened to meet here in Rhode Island together. So he was like a man after my own heart. He looked at my husband. He's like, the most important person in this room is her. And he pointed at me. And I was like, oh my God, I love you. Are you single?
So
like,
good.
how's your relationship right now? But I was like, there's something about that where we don't pour into ourselves. So it's so hard to pour into another woman because we're not getting that. And then there's this shifting. And then there's I think we all have it of walking into that event and being like, okay, I don't know anybody, but here we go. And I love that you said that, because sometimes we need to do that in order to find our tribe. Like our tribe just doesn't come to us. Do you have advice for women trying to seek out their tribe? Like, is there things, places they can go, things they can do?
Twice this has happened to me where I've looked at somebody and I said, I want to be her friend. Once it happened at my son's nursery school when he was like a little baby. And I sought out my friend Laura, and then I was like, she and I are going to be friends. And guess what? I went up to her and I said, hi, my name is Tara. I would love to maybe get the kids together. We'll go to the park. And she was like, yeah, sure. So we made fast friends, and then that was it. The second one was my friend Kelly that I mentioned when my son started kindergarten. Our sons were friends, and I walked up to her and I said, I'm going to be friends with her. And I didn't say that to her face because she would have been like, this girl's a psycho. But I said it to myself. And we, hit it off, and our sons hit it off, and we've been friends ever since. From when they were 6 years old to now they're 12 years old, they're still friends. And part of it is taking a deep breath, having the confidence to walk up to someone and introduce yourself and say, hey, maybe we can go to the park and meet up. Something as simple as that. Another good thing, especially when the kids are in school, is to try to volunteer if you can, because if your schedule allows, and if your interest allows as well. But that definitely helped me meet a lot more families otherwise, to try to get involved in school. Sometimes it's overwhelming given your schedule, but it's worth it. I think so. I mean, now I'm not volunteering at all, and I have so much more free time. So I don't know.
I love that. I love that you're like a sniper of sorts. You're like, this one right here, she's going to be my friend. Like, there's something very cool about you knowing that. And again, I think it speaks to a level of your own self-awareness of knowing what you like or what you need or what you're seeking out in a friend. What advice do you have for people that are maybe more introverts, or maybe don't have that within them? Like, how can they even get there of knowing, ooh, I want to be her friend, versus I'll take anybody, and then potentially be mistreated or find themselves in these Facebook groups where it's like, ooh, my kid's Halloween candy, and people are shaming you, being like, Halloween candy? Don't you know that's bad for them?
I know. That's what's so tricky about meeting people through social media because of the shaming. They're only seeing a quick snapshot of your life. It is literally either it's a 7-second reel or it's literally a photograph, and they're adding context to something that there is no context or they don't understand, right? So that is part of the challenge of meeting people through social media. You know, they're giving their 2 cents about this Halloween candy when they don't know the rest of your life. They just don't know. Right. So to answer your question about people who are introverts, as someone who's not an introvert, that's a little bit trickier for me, but both my husband and my son are. So I have a lot more appreciation and experience with introverts now. And for my husband and my son, how they make friends is either having someone like me, like pull them along and be like, we're going to make friends now. No, I'm just kidding.
Find yourself an extrovert.
Right, exactly. Pair up with an extrovert. No, but for them, what they like to do is many times they're sitting quietly, whether, let's say, I'll give an example of my son playing at the beach. He often makes friends with people while he's playing at the beach because he'll be digging in the sand or looking for crabs or something, and then someone will walk by, and then he gets to share his knowledge to that person about something that he likes and he feels comfortable about. So you could take that example, you know, as women, is like maybe share some of your experience or your knowledge or a story to sort of like get the conversation started. And then that's how you make friends.
I love that. And I think there's interesting ways women can do this specifically that have nothing to do with their kids or school. I know up here in Newport, Rhode Island, we have like a book club that's like fantastic. So find like a shared thing that you like to do.
Yes.
And it's a common thread of just, we now have something to talk about immediately.
Yeah, exactly. So my mom, she'll be 70 this year. She lives in a condo community, and she wanted to like do something to meet people. And there's many other older women in this condo community. And we had the idea of a walking club. And I was like, Mommy, I love that idea. So she's like, you know what? We're going to meet at the clubhouse on Wednesday mornings at 10 o'clock. And we're just going to like walk around the community. And I was like, that's a great idea. It's free. It's active. It's social. It checks all of the boxes. So that's another great way to get people out of their house, to get them moving, to get them social. God bless her. She's so cute. She was supposed to have it this week, and nobody showed up. And I was like, that's okay, Mommy. They just probably needed a reminder. It was also like 30 degrees. So it's a little hard to start a walking club in February.
Right.
But probably not the best timing, but you know, she just wanted to get out of the house, and I respect that. So she went on the walk by herself, and she just did her little walk, and then she went home, but at least she was active and she got out of the house for a bit. So a walking club is a great way to do it, especially for new moms. You have the kids in the stroller, meet up somewhere, walk around the park, do a couple laps, and that's, like I said, it's free, it's active, it's social.
Yes. I think the thing that I'm hearing from you is put yourself out there. Put yourself out there, because we know that with loneliness statistically, loneliness does bad things to us. It does bad things to our health, to our brains, to our eating, our diet, which then translates to our family, our kids. So loneliness is no bueno. No. I think I just read a study too that people who have friendships actually live longer. It's like a very integral part into longevity and quality of life and happiness. So putting yourself out there, I think, it's scary, but do it anyway. You know, that motivational booster.
It's one of those things where it's like, it's sort of icky, but once you do it, then you feel so much better. That's why I tell my mom all the time, I'm like, Mommy, go to the library, go out for a walk, like just get out of the house, do something social. You know, she's by herself and she lives alone, and otherwise she's just, you know, hanging out, watching NCIS and calling me 15 times a day, which is fine. But like, I want her to get out of the house. I want her to be active. I want her to be social, because I know how devastating loneliness can be.
I get it. I love that your mom's doing a walking club. My mom moved up here to Rhode Island, and she started a dancing witch troupe. So very different wavelengths.
Yo, let me tell you, my mom would do that in a heartbeat.
Get her up here. We are not that far away.
I know.
Bring her up.
I love that.
But I have to say, I respect the older generation, because I do find that they have found a really I don't know, they're onto something. And I feel like our grandparents, that tribe, that village was probably very different than today. And I think a lot of times it's easy for us to get involved in our everyday life and put on our blinders and be very myopic. But I do love the idea of getting out of your comfort zone and doing something new, finding something exciting. I don't know. I'm just really big in women investing in themselves, which also
Oh, yeah.
means their friendships.
1,000%, yes. And another one of the modern mom problems that I often speak about when I said I have like a top five is the lack of an in-person village, right? Previous generations had larger families. Maybe they had more sisters, more cousins, more aunts, like all of the things. And everyone was nearby and they were close and you could go across the street and you could go, to the next neighborhood. And we were all together. And that's something that we don't have nowadays, which again, sort of is woven into that loneliness because we are physically isolated from our people.
Totally. What are the other modern mom problems? Talk. Tell me more.
Oh.
Go with it.
just flow with it.
I want to know.
I don't know if, yeah. Okay, sorry. I kicked my my microphone. What are the other ones? Okay. Loneliness, lack of an in-person village, social media comparison, goes back to the conversation that we were having, screen time, both for our children and for ourselves. I feel like there are some more, but those are just the ones off the top of my head.
And all of those things I feel daily. I feel it. And Jimmy and I, my husband, have these conversations and I'm like, oh, I gotta be better. I gotta be better. And sometimes there's this overwhelm of trying to be better because I'm just trying to survive.
Yeah.
And like this idea of thriving, I find on social media, everybody's thriving. We're our best selves, like LinkedIn and its whole success porn thing. I think there's something about being okay with surviving / stabilizing. Like most of the
Yes.
time we need to be in stabilization mode. We're not thriving. And we will be surviving every once in a while. Like it's cold and flu season. Like most of us are surviving.
Yeah.
But I think that's interesting too, because everything you're saying, people almost get overwhelmed that I've seen on my end with my clients of, I know this is a problem, now what? And I'm assuming this is all in the book and everywhere on your channel where we can go and see all that. How do we get in touch with you? How do we find you?
Yeah, I speak about this a lot, particularly on my podcast. So I have a podcast called Modern Mom Probs where I address this often. The book, I do talk about that. In the book, I have 99 problems, but motherhood ain't one. So I go through 99 different things, which let me tell you, is a lot more than like the 5 that I just rattled off. So yeah, 99 problems. And follow me on Instagram. Definitely follow me on Instagram, Modern Mom Probs, and we'll hang out. I'm speaking at Mom 2.0 this year. I'm speaking at Alt Summit this year. I have all kinds of fun stuff lined up.
So we can come see Tara Clark in all her glory in person or on her screen, our screens as well. Final question. What is your favorite F word?
I love that question. I was thinking about this and there were so many and I was trying to think, how can I narrow it down to one? But I would say friendly. I know I mentioned that earlier. I am friendly. I am fun. I fangirl my friends all the time. Like, no, seriously. Like, if you ask any of my friends, I am like the biggest hype girl. And hype starts with an H, but fangirl starts with an F. So I'm going to say fangirl. But like even Nikki, right? Like you had Nikki on this show. Like I fangirl her all the time. I'm always like, we text each other, hyping each other up. So I am a fangirl. I am a fun, friendly fangirl.
I love all of those F words. And yes, you are totally on brand with that. You embody that. And we all need a Tara Clark in our life. So get out there, go find somebody, do something scary, get out of your comfort zone and find your Tara Clark. And if you can't find one, at least follow her and get her book and listen to her podcast while you're finding her. So thank you so much, ma'am, for being on the show and giving us all your wisdom and so much things to think about and practical problems on how to solve it. Because this is a conversation I feel like I should have more of, and we need to continue that conversation on just like supporting each other and being there for each other because we all got many, many mom probs.
So many. There's so many. I adore you. I adore the work that you're doing. I adore the conversations that you're having. It's just like, thank you for having a platform to speak about all of this. I adore you. And you're right. People need each other inherently. Human beings need other human beings. And that's just what I'm trying to do here.
And you're doing a damn good job at it, ma'am. I mean that sincerely. I do. I'm from Jersey. We just don't say nice things to say them. You know that, being from
Well,
Jersey.
that's the thing. Well. You know what's funny? People like often will say like, oh, people from the South are more hospitable and they're nicer, but then they'll like throw like bless your heart kind of thing. But people from New Jersey, like we only say those things if we genuinely mean them. And I genuinely mean the things that I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. No, we are a mean kindness. I don't know. I don't even know how to embody it. But yes, I feel that deeply. So I agree. And I tell people all the time, like, I don't say nice things because I don't believe in that. I will say them because I mean them, and you know I mean them. And that is our version up here in the North, minus the bless your heart. And we will pray for her. We will continue to pray for her.
Exactly that. But I appreciate you so much. So thank you so much for having me on.
I hope you come back and we continue this online somewhere and in person and more, but definitely check out Tara Clark and all of her good stuff. And we will catch you on the next episode of Feelings and Other F Words. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.